Hi, I'm Rebecca Byrne, and welcome to my studio. I'm really excited to be delivering this workshop for hospital rooms. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my painting practice, how I work, some of the materials I use. I look at a lot of landscapes. I look at both historical landscapes by artists like Helen Frankenthaler, who's an artist I admire very much. This is one of the paintings of hers that I look at quite a bit. It's called Mountains and Sea. And I look at other nature photographs of things that are living now, and I also look at plants and trees and things that have become extinct. And I'm interested in our relationship to the land, and about the ideas that trees kind of have this underground network, and they talk to each other, and so do mushrooms, and all of these things come into my paintings as I start. Today we're looking at a painting like this, which I prepared earlier in anticipation of today. And it basically is a combination of, I'll sit and make a lot of these sketches, and then I'll just start painting. And it'll be whatever I feel like doing in the day, in the moment. I typically start off all of my work with a really gestural base of washy colors, and I really like acrylic inks. So these are all by Liquitex, the paints and the inks. And acrylic inks are great because they're permanent and archival, unlike other inks which are dye-based. So it's perfectly safe to use these, and you know they'll stay the same and they won't go funny colors and stuff. And then I mix them up with pouring medium, which is something that will add to the transparency of your paint and of the inks as well. So in these little pots, I'll start with the blue. Today I thought I'd think about a seashore. So just making these gestural marks are kind of the basis of all of my works. I like to have something to kind of respond to or respond against, and there's no right or wrong way to make these marks. They're just loose, free things. If I start thinking about, this is the seashore, and then I'll move into thinking about the shoreline, and maybe add a green over here. Some ideas about where the land might be, thinking about horizon lines. And then if it's a sunny day, I'll put some yellow as well. And this is just for me a nice beginning and a nice start. And then I also like to use kitchen towels, and you can add patterns and texture to your beginnings with these kitchen towels, or you can do this later as well, of course. But doing this kind of removes the excess of whatever your base colors are, so you can move on to the next colors quickly. And now I'll add a few more colors to my palette. I do use a lot of colors, so if you're looking at this and you think, wow, that looks a little overwhelming, I didn't start out like this, so you can start off with much fewer colors. So I start by thinking about where I want things to go, and again, looking back at Helen Frankenthaler's work, when you look at someone else's paintings, you might see different things going on. In my mind, her work almost starts with this vibrant pink basket, which is right in the middle of the composition. So I'll lay out an area of color in this pink that I like. That becomes kind of like the core or the focus of where I start going from there. And then to map things out, I'll mix up kind of a greeny gray, and I'll use that to kind of draw out where I want other things to go. So where I would want kind of a leafy form to be, and this kind of just helps me map out where things are and how they relate to each other. And that way, as I progress, I kind of have a bit of a roadmap for what I want. And in her painting, she has this big yellow kind of an area there at the bottom left, which I find kind of odd and interesting. And it's also good to think about how you have different size and different scales in your work too. So you might have some big organic shapes like this and some smaller, tighter shapes like that. And in this, I'm thinking about where I want my shoreline to be for the water. So I'll draw a line there and use a couple of different blues. Maybe add another leafy shape up here. And I also like to do some things that look like the shoreline and the water are kind of meeting each other in these kind of unusual shapes. And when you're mixing your colors, you might be thinking a lot about the color you're mixing, but actually it's also just as easy and as exciting to mix things up in the painting itself. So you might find that you like one color for a while, and then you might go back later and want to adjust it, and you can either adjust that sometimes wet into wet paint. This is acrylic, so it's going to dry quite quickly, but you can also just paint right over acrylic, because that's one of the beautiful things about the fact that it dries quite quickly. You can just paint over an earlier color with something else that you might decide later that you like better. And that's really easy to do with this. And actually I used to be an oil painter primarily, so turning to acrylic in recent years has kind of been a learning experience for me too. I guess that's kind of the nice thing about painting. You can always learn something new. And now it just becomes about thinking about how things relate to each other, what you want to add in, if you want to add more vibrant colors, softer colors. And a lot of just like pop culture comes into my paintings. So for example, I was watching the Netflix documentary, My Octopus Teacher, and then I started painting octopuses into my paintings. And a lot of different references of things I'm watching or reading wind up coming into, which is kind of nice. Here I'm going to put in the bright yellow that is in the corner of the painting I was looking at earlier. And if you want a really vibrant yellow, you can start off with something like this yellow, which is a yellow Hansa color, and that is a very transparent color. So it's kind of nice. I like them because you can build up with them, and if you really like the vibrancy of that color, maybe you can leave it like that. If you want to really paint out what might have been underneath it, or make it, just increase the opacity, then you can add a bit of white, and that will take your opacity up and kind of make it stronger. And the other thing I do is, in really wet paint like this, I flip my brush around and draw into it, even this one. So the thicker layer like that will take a lot longer to dry than some of the thinner pieces. So you can always go back and manipulate that color as well and get different effects if you're kind of scratching back into it. Or you can lay more towel on the top again and leave more textures. And think about your brush, like kind of how you're holding your brush and how you move it. And you can use it on its side. You can use it broadly like that. And basically you can just keep going like this for as long as you like. There seem to be sailboats in Helen's painting, so I put sailboats in. But you can basically carry on like this and add more things, or paint out what you didn't like and change everything up, and you can kind of keep going as long as you like. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you keep going, you can wind up with something like this.